Deep in the frozen wilderness of the Ural Mountains, a group of experienced hikers disappeared into one of the most mysterious tragedies of the 20th century. All that remained was an abandoned tent, a trail of footprints in the snow, and questions that would survive for decades. On a freezing night in February 1959, 9 young explorers left their shelter and walked into the darkness. They were experienced hikers. They understood the mountains. They knew the dangers of winter. But something happened that forced them to leave behind the one thing that could have protected them, their tent. The mystery became known as the Dyatlov Pass Incident. More than 60 years later, investigators, scientists, and historians continue to study the evidence left behind. Some questions have answers. Others remain buried beneath the snow. In January 1959, 10 university students and experienced hikers from the Soviet Union began a winter expedition through the remote Northern Ural Mountains. Their goal was simple: complete a challenging ski route across a harsh and isolated landscape. The group was led by 23-year-old Igor Dyatlov, an experienced hiker known for his leadership and careful planning. The expedition included 10 members. Among them was Yuri Yudin, who would become the only person from the group to survive. During the early part of the journey, Yudin became ill and made the decision to turn back. A decision that saved his life. The remaining 9 hikers continued deeper into the mountains. They were experienced, they carried equipment, they had planned their route carefully. But on February 1st, 1959, they reached the slopes of a mountain later known as Kholat Syakhl, a place that would become forever connected with their final night. As darkness fell, the group established their campsite on the snowy slope. Inside the tent were 9 people preparing for another cold night in the wilderness. At that moment, there was no reason to believe anything unusual was about to happen. Somewhere during the night, the normal routine of survival changed. Something caused the group to leave their shelter. But what exactly happened inside that tent remains one of the biggest unanswered questions of the case. The hikers left behind equipment, clothing, and supplies that would normally be essential for survival. Their decision appeared impossible. Why would experienced mountaineers abandon their shelter in freezing temperatures? To understand the mystery, investigators would first have to find out Inve was left behind. The 9 hikers were expected to return from their expedition, but when they failed to arrive, concern quickly turned into a search operation. Friends, families, and authorities began looking for the missing group in the frozen wilderness of the Ural Mountains. Days passed as search teams moved deeper into the mountains, unaware that they were about to uncover one of the most puzzling scenes in modern history. On February 26, 1959, searchers discovered the group's tent on the slope of Kholat Syakhl. The scene was unusual. The tent was still standing, but the people who had been inside were gone. Inside the tent, investigators found personal belongings, clothing, and equipment. For experienced hikers, abandoning these supplies in the middle of winter would have been an extremely dangerous decision. The evidence suggested that whatever happened, it happened quickly. One of the most discussed details was the condition of the tent. Investigators found cuts in the fabric, and the official reports recorded that the tent had been cut from the inside. This discovery created one of the first major questions of the case. Why would the hikers need to escape through the tent itself? Outside the tent, searchers discovered tracks leading away from the campsite. footprints appeared to head down the slope toward the forest. The hikers had left their shelter, but they had not taken the equipment needed for a long stay outside. Following the trail toward the forest, searchers found the first bodies near a cedar tree. 2 hikers were discovered close to the remains of a small fire. The evidence suggested that the group had attempted to survive after leaving the tent. Some of the clothing found on the victims appeared to have been taken from other members of the group. This suggested a desperate attempt to protect themselves from the freezing temperatures. But the mountain offered very little chance of survival. Months later, when the snow began to melt, the remaining 4 hikers were discovered in a ravine.
The date on this
The discovery added
match.
another layer
Check the
of
medical
mystery
files
to an
again.
already confusing investigation. Their injuries and the circumstances surrounding their deaths would become the subject of decades of debate. How did a group of experienced hikers end up separated across the mountain? Why did they leave their tent? Could the environment itself explain what happened? Or was there another cause hidden in the evidence? The Dyatlov Pass incident became famous because the evidence answered some questions, but created many more. We know where the hikers were found. We know their tent was abandoned. But the exact chain of events during their final hours remains uncertain. After the discovery of the bodies, Soviet investigators began examining one of the most unusual cases in their history. They studied the campsite, analyzed the evidence, and investigated the condition of the victims. But their final conclusion would leave more questions than answers. The official Soviet investigation concluded that the hikers died because of an unknown, compelling force. The phrase was vague, and it did not explain exactly what caused the group to leave their tent or how the final moments unfolded. Over time, this lack of detail allowed many different theories to appear. Decades later, scientists and researchers returned to the evidence using modern methods. Instead of focusing on speculation, they examined what could realistically happen to a group of hikers trapped in extreme mountain conditions. One explanation gained significant attention. One of the strongest modern explanations is that a small snow slab avalanche may have created a sudden threat during the night. The group may have believed their tent was unsafe and evacuated quickly, planning to move away from danger before returning. This theory explains why experienced hikers might leave their shelter without taking all their equipment. However, the avalanche explanation does not answer every question. Researchers continue to debate details, including the condition of the tent, the hikers' movement afterward, and the exact cause of some injuries. The theory explains many parts of the event, but not every mystery. The Ural Mountains in winter can become extremely dangerous. Powerful winds, freezing temperatures, and poor visibility may have contributed to confusion and survival difficulties. Some researchers believe the environment itself may have played the biggest role in the tragedy. Because the incident happened during the Cold War, some people suspected military activity may have been involved. Rumors about secret weapons
Soviet
and hidden
investigators closed the
experiments
case.
became
The
popular
official
over
conclusion
the
cited
years.
an unknown
However,
compelling force,
no
unexplained.
strong evidence
What
has
really
confirmed
happened at
that
Dyatlov
military
Pass?
testing caused
Decades
the
later,
deaths.
the files are still
Over
open,
the decades,
and the
the
truth
Dyatlov
remains
Pass
just out of
incident
reach.
became connected
A focal
with
point of the
stories of
investigation
strange
is
lights,
the steep slope above
unknown
the tent.
creatures,
Here,
and
fierce winds may have
supernatural
created a hidden and
explanations.
deadly slab of packed snow.
These ideas captured public imagination, but they are not supported by reliable evidence. The mystery grew because of unanswered questions, not because evidence proved something impossible. When the evidence is examined carefully, some explanations are stronger than others. Modern research generally points toward a combination of natural factors, including possible snow movement and extreme conditions. But the exact final moments of the hikers remain unknown. More than 60 years later, the Dyatlov Pass Incident remains one of the most studied mysteries in modern history. We know the names of the 9 hikers. We know where they made their final camp. We know their abandoned tent, the footprints in the snow, and the locations where they were discovered. But some questions remain unanswered. What exactly happened inside the tent? What caused 9 experienced hikers to leave their shelter during one of the coldest nights of the year? And what were their final moments like on that mountain? These questions continue to surround the Dyatlov Pass incident. Beyond the theories and investigations, there is a simpler truth. The people involved were not characters in a mystery story. They were students, friends, and explorers who set out on a difficult journey because they loved the mountains. Their story is remembered not only because of how they died, but because of who they were. Based on current evidence, many researchers believe that natural forces offer the most likely explanation. A possible snow slab avalanche, combined with extreme winter conditions, may have created a chain of events that the hikers could not overcome. But science cannot recreate every second of that night, and some details may remain forever lost. The Dyatlov Pass incident became famous because it exists between answers and uncertainty,